Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture what we will do is that we will create a method which is going to read the data from the database so that we could actually go ahead and display that data over here in this text view right here. So what we essentially want to do is that we want to have a method which returns us a string which is basically nothing but the task stored in the database. So what we will do here is that we will go right over here and define the method. This is obviously going to be of the type public, and as this is going to return a string value, let's type in public string and let's name this method as database to string, as this is essentially going to return the string from the database. We have named it as database to string. And now the next thing which we do is that we first define the string which this method is actually going to return. So we will type in string and let's name the string as db string, which stands for database string, and initially this string is going to be empty, so we are going to initialize it to empty. And the next thing which we do is that we basically get access to the database, so we will type in sqlite database and create the object of the database by typing db, and then what we will do is that we will type this equals get writable database. So this is basically the same thing which we have done over here. That is, we basically create the database object in order to get reference to that particular database. Now the next thing which you need to do is that you need to write in the SQL query for extracting the values from the database. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to pause this video, I'm going to write in the SQL query, and then I'm going to explain you guys what I have done. Okay, so as you could see, I have typed in the SQL query by typing in string query equals the particular query. So essentially the query is stored in the query variable. So the query is something like select star, and star actually means selecting all the elements from the table name, which is table task, and where one is actually a condition which specifies that each and every row of the database should actually be selected. So what this actually means is that we want to select all the elements from the database. So once we have this query, the next thing which we need to do is that we need to have something which is called as a cursor. So a cursor in database is nothing but it's actually like a pointer which is going to point to different set of rows. So let's say if your table is having 10 tasks and those 10 tasks are actually stored in the database and you wish to extract those tasks one by one, so the cursor is actually going to help you do that. So in order to do the same thing, what we will do is that we will create our very own cursor. So we'll type cursor c equals, and this is going to get attached with the database. So we will type db dot raw query, and to this you need to pass in query and the next parameter as null. So once you have defined the cursor, the next thing what you could do is that you could basically move the cursor to the first position, because you obviously want to start from the first position and then you basically want to loop through till the last record. So we'll type in c dot move to first. So we will type in move to first. So move to first is a method which is going to move your cursor to the extreme first position in the database. Now the next thing which you need to do is that through each and every entry present in your database, so in order to loop through it, you type in a while loop. So while not c dot is after last. So the is after last method is basically a method which is going to alert you when you reach the last. So till the cursor does not reach the last, we want to execute this set of code, and that code is to basically get the string which we want. So what we do here is that we check if the column index is null. So if c dot get string, and here we get the column index, so we will type in c dot get column index, and if the column index of the task name is not equal to null, that means the tasks are not over yet. So if we type this not equal to null, so if this happens, what we want to do is that we want to get the database string and store it into the db string variable. So we will type db string plus equals, that is basically getting the current string as well as the previous string. So it's kind of like appending to the previous result. So we type this plus equals c dot get string, and we basically want to get the string at a particular column index. So we will type in c dot get column index, where this is equal to task name, So this essentially is going to return us the string. And finally, after adding a new string, that is basically after getting the previous string, you want to append the new string to it, but you do need to make sure that you have a new line after you enter a new string, so that no two strings should be entered on the same line. So for that, what we do is that we type db string plus equals, and we basically append a /n over here. So this is actually going to leave a single line in between the two records. So once this thing is done, in this while loop, coming out of the scope of the if, you basically move the cursor to the next position. So you type c dot move to next, and that basically moves the cursor to the next position, and the loop continues to execute as long as all the entries in the database are over. So finally, what we need to do is that we need to close the database. So we type db.close, and finally we return the string which is stored in the db string. So we will type in return db string, and once we are done with this, we are basically good to go. So now, as you could see, we have all the methods which we need to use, which is basically the add task method, the remove task method, and the database to string method, which basically allows us to get the information from the database. So now the only thing which remains is that we basically need to attach these methods to our main activity so that our application could perform correctly. So in the next lecture, what we will do is that we will learn how to attach all these methods to the main activity.java class. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.